When you sit on a jury, you have the right to not only judge the facts of the case, but the law itself and whether the law is being misapplied.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think that the person that is on trial is, you shouldn't even be in that courtroom, you could say not guilty. And you don't have to come up with a unanimous decision. 12 people don't have to say not guilty. You can vote your conscience and say, this person is not guilty. You don't even have to give a reason why.
Okay, so I'm here today with James Cox, who is an excellent, fully informed jury association activist. He's done pamphleting in Florida, and he's done a bunch of other things. Tell us about yourself a little bit, James.
Hi, George, and thank you for getting in contact with me for this interview. I think it's very important at this time to have this discussion, especially with what's going on in Washington, D.C. with Adam Kokesh.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Always a pleasure, James. Always a pleasure.
yeah. Um, well, I came to the United States in search of the so-called American dream and found that basically Carlin's right. You've got to be asleep to believe it because like everybody is regulated, uh, to the hilt, and you've always got to be watching your back and things like that.
Mm.
So things didn't seem to be the way that it's all sold as pie and sky out of this country.
Hmm.
Um, I did a numerous jobs while I was over here, and then I was sent an email by somebody as a recommendation to, because of my online activism, speaking out about certain things, that I should go and do some um, activism.
Jury independence activism, yeah? Like
Yeah,
jury nullification.
activism on the street. So
Oh, okay.
I responded to that, which was Fiji, and I ended up quitting my job, working for a bank, and took on the position of the Florida State Coordinator for going out and educating people on jury nullification.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd read a little bit about this before, so I had to get myself up to speed and understand what it was all about.
So
And
what is jury nullification all about? You know, just because it's a big long word and not everybody knows what it really is.
okay, the way that I can explain it is in government, or in this, pyramid of governmental organizations, the people are the fourth branch of government, and they don't know this. It doesn't matter who writes the laws. It doesn't matter what the laws are, what they say. When somebody sits on a jury, they have the right to nullify that law. The
Mm-hmm.
judge is not the powerfulest, most powerful person in the courtroom. Each individual juror is. One juror can actually set a man free. Now, it doesn't mean to say that that juror is going to set the man free completely, because then, and I'm going to get to that in a second, why I say that. But when you sit on a jury, you have the right to not only judge the facts of the case, but the law itself and whether the law is being misapplied.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think that the person that is on trial is, shouldn't even be in that courtroom, you could say not guilty. And you don't have to come up with a unanimous decision. 12 people don't have to say not guilty. You can vote your conscience and say, this person is not guilty. You don't even have to give a reason why. You can just say, this person's not guilty. I don't want my time wasted anymore on this. You stand your ground. You tell the others, I'm not going to explain why I think this person's not guilty. Or you can just say, I think that the prosecutor just did a bad job of bringing this case to court. This person's not guilty. Stop wasting my time. Let's not waste your time. Let's not waste the court's time and taxpayers' money. Let's get out there and just say we can't agree on this, because
So
I'm
so
I
basically when you're on a jury, you know, if you have jury duty or whatever, or when anybody's on a jury, basically when you go into that jury room to deliberate, you know, in the final analysis, really you can do whatever your conscience dictates. Would you say that's
yeah,
correct?
Yeah, don't check your conscience at the courthouse door. Don't do what the judge tells you. He's just a referee. But these judges, they've got all this power these days. They're going to sit there, they're going to tell you and say, members of the jury, before we get into this case, the law here in the state of, whatever law it is this. And if you think that this person has broken the law, then you must deliver a guilty verdict. Now, judges apparently never used to say this hundreds of years ago. They used to say, the law here in this state is this. However, if you think that this is a bad law, an unjust law, you can vote your conscience and find this person not guilty.
Hmm.
Now, the
So what
thing is,
changed? Why did that change?
well, it's all money. We're making money out of just like the military industrial complex. We've got the industrial prison complex. They're making money out of these private prisons. Wackenhut and all these people. Their stocks and shares are on Wall Street. We have all these people in prison, for victimless crimes, and the taxpayer is paying for this. I mean, it costs about $40,000 a year to cage somebody now. I mean, it's absolutely insane that, to think that, there's two victims here when you put somebody in a cage. There's two victims. There's the person you put in the cage, and there's yourself. Because you're paying for this out of your taxes. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous that, if somebody's got a drug problem, you know, putting somebody in a cage is not the answer for that. These people need rehabilitating. They need help.
Hmm.
A lot of these people probably don't want to be on heroin or they're doing whatever they're doing. They need help. They don't
Well, and
need
they
to
haven't
be
hurt anyone, presumably, right? I mean, there are a lot of people
exactly.
in prison who haven't actually hurt anyone. They've just broken the, the whatever you want to call it, mala prohibitum, I think it's called, where basically the government says, you're not allowed to do this because I say so, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's just men forcing their will on people by writing, scribbles of ink on pieces of paper and then allegedly voting on it and saying, that's it, that's the law. You have to do as we tell you now. And, basically, that law can be really no harm on anybody. If
So, yeah.
somebody's growing marijuana or smoking a joint, a plant that grows on this earth, that's illegal, right? That's illegal.
Hmm.
And so therefore, if you get caught with this, you could be facing 10 years in a cage. And this is not just an effect on the person. This person might be a productive person in society. They might have a job. They just and they're making 20, 30, $40,000 a year. It's just the fact that they might want to put this in their body because it's their body. They own their body and they can put in it whatever they want. However, this so called law says, no, you can't. You're going in a cage. But now, if they're the breadwinner of the family, guess who suffers? Not just them, but their family does also. And sometimes, the spouse, if they've got children, has to throw themselves then on the state and ask for financial help, and
Hmm.
that's more money.
Well, and it
Now
affects the economy. Their family may have a mortgage, they may have a business, they may help other people in the community, and when their economic situation is threatened, well, I mean that has a rippling impact, right? So
absolutely.
so anyway, the jury has this power. When you go into the jury box, even no matter what the judge says, you have this power. And so now what's our job as activists? What would you say?
Our job is to get out there and, educate people. We're posting this on Facebook and on social media is great. If you're getting videos of actually showing action. Actions speak louder than words. You have to get out there in the general public. We're preaching to the choir if we're doing this amongst ourselves. And a lot of people know about this online, and it's what we need to do now is we need to take it a step further. We need to hit the bricks. We need to get on the streets. We need to get more people involved. And there's more to this activism than just standing outside a courthouse or in a public space, handing somebody a piece of paper with, a brochure with information on about joint nullification and, this. We need to be holding meetings. We need to be getting into different political parties, try and go and speak at like um, a Democratic local Democratic Party meeting or a Republican Party meeting. Find out what their hot buttons are, their single issues that they are most upset about,
Mm-hmm.
and explain to them how this can be advantageous for their cause. In the likes of Adam Kokesh, there's a lot of institutions in Washington D.C., right? And we need to be going and talking to these people like the Cato Institution, um, the Libertarian Party. I believe they have an office out there.
Mm-hmm.
That we need to be going and talk to these people and ask them, hey, listen, can you help fund a cause? We have a major problem right now. We have a guy here that is standing up for something that's right, Adam Kokesh, and I think, we need to try and make Adam Kokesh famous and bring more awareness to what happened. This guy harmed nobody. I may not agree with his tactics, what he did, George, but at the end of the day, Adam had a right to, do what he did. He harmed nobody. Nobody got harmed in this. If it is legitimate, the video, because who knows with today's technology and green screening, whether this was him with a green screen behind him. I mean, even his attorney, I believe, pointed out that. They can't even prove the authenticity of the video. So even with that being brought up, this guy's in a cage right now, and he's harmed nobody. There's no victim. There's no crime. So what is he guilty of? Why?
Right.
Why?
And it's
You
not
know.
just about Adam Kokesh either. I mean, he is just perhaps one of the most notable recent victims of the police state. There are, probably hundreds of thousands of people in cages or facing time in cages over victimless crimes. And so, nascent industries like the marijuana industry are being, stopped because of this with this tactic. And marijuana could have quite a positive economic impact on the country. What's more, I think the so what, somebody might be listening to this. I imagine they might say, okay, jury nullification, this is interesting. Okay, we can do it the way that James says. Those sound like interesting ideas, but so what, right? So what? Why should I worry about this? How can this impact my life? What do you
Why? Because it's only a matter of time before somebody or even yourself that somebody that you love is convicted, or accused of a victimless crime, right?
Right.
We see it all the time. We see that these cops now are banging in people's doors and they're getting the wrong address and they're shooting people and their animals. I mean, it's just getting totally out of hand. So there are
What
all
about
these
these seizure laws? Isn't there wasn't isn't what's that called when they suspect a vehicle or a house or whatever of
asset
having.
asset asset forfeiture.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean that could be another thing. You could be a legitimate. Well, I think anything where peaceful trade happens between two people, whether you trade in whatever that somebody else deems illegal or illicit, like drugs or whatever, as long as it's peaceful and nobody's getting harmed in it. Somebody could actually be dealing in antique furniture, right? I know in Tennessee here there's a huge problem. And as you know, antiques fetch a lot of money. So let's say, for argument's sake, you have to travel through Tennessee with, $30,000, $40,000 of cash on you because you're going to buy something that's an antique of that value, and you get pulled over by the police. You know what? They're going to steal that money off you. And according to Tennessee law, they can quite rightly do so. And then you have to prove in court that, you know, that you have that money and it was legitimate, it wasn't used for drugs.
Because they could
So
say, right? They could say, well, we suspect those funds of being the proceeds from selling drugs, because why else would you travel with that amount of money? And this
right.
actually happened a few years ago to a guy who was, I believe, a Guatemalan dishwasher. He came to the U.S. with his American dream, just like you, and he washed dishes for 7 years, and he managed to accumulate something like $50,000 or $57,000 because he just lived in squalor to save this money and go back. And when he went back, they said, "No, we think these proceeds are drug money. We're seizing it. It's ours now," right? And
Right.
they do this to all different kinds of people for all different kinds of reasons.
Yeah, I mean it's absolutely disgusting that these people can just make an accusation and just take from you, steal the fruits of your labor from you, just like that. And people will say, "Well, it never happened to me." Okay, well, it never happened to you, but if it does, then the jury is your last defense
Hmm.
to try and get you acquitted of this crime. Now, I want to go back to what I was saying earlier. One person stands up on a jury and says not guilty. The prosecutor does have the right to actually retry the case, but jury trials take a lot of time and money to put together. So it's unless it's something that's really high profile, chances of it happening, it's not gonna fly. They're probably just gonna say, okay, you're acquitted, right?
Hmm.
Um, the the thing is that if enough people in a community start standing up, and we're talking about jury nullification, just one person saying not guilty, if enough of this happens, right, eventually the prosecutors will write to the state and say, you need to take this law off the books because we can't get convictions. We're seeing this right now in Montana with drug convictions. They can't seat juries because juries, when they're asked, they say, "I'm not going to convict somebody for a plant that grows on this earth." And I read something not long back about this is happening also with the IRS stealing people's stuff in Montana. Also, they're starting to find it hard to convict people for IRS.
That's
So,
excellent.
so when people, and to say just an individual gets informed on this and says, not guilty, you know, let's stop wasting time here. I'm not going to change my mind. If you want to sit here until this time next year, fine. But I don't. I've got other things to do. I'm not
Hmm.
going to change my mind. Not guilty. Stand your ground and just say no. And this can apply for anything, whether somebody has a gun and the cop thinks that they didn't have a right to have this gun on their person to protect
Maybe the
themselves.
barrel was too long or too short, right?
Yeah, I mean, is anything, where there's no victim, there's no crime, and we should be thinking about this. And when you sit on a jury, just vote your conscience and just, don't do what the judge tells you. Now, go ahead.
Oh yeah. So I was gonna say. So now, thanks to James, we've established that jury nullification power exists. It is quite powerful, and there are a number of reasons why we should care about it. So now people may be wondering, how can I go out there and really have a positive impact, whether it's for Adam Kokesh or my friend in jail or just in my community? Yeah. So so and some people have seen videos. I've done jury nullification pamphleting, and so have others. And some people have seen videos, perhaps, where inevitably the people distributing the pamphlets are harassed, are arrested, or even framed. So, but I think you have done quite a lot of pamphleting, a lot more than some other people that I know of. But you haven't been harassed or arrested hardly at all, as far as I know. So my question is, how do you do this kind of activism? How do you have an impact without unduly risking arrest?
Okay. When you're not going to believe this, but I distributed between me and the teams that I set up in the state of Florida, over 40,000
Wow.
feature brochures, right, throughout different communities. I had a team in Fort Lauderdale, that was my main area. I had a team in Miami. I had a team in West Palm Beach. I had a team in Orlando, a team in Tampa, and also a team in Jacksonville. Right, so
Very nice.
I spread myself across the state. Um, I was harassed, George, but I was never arrested, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I simply say this: people in the past have done this wrong, right? Now it's been a learning experience for myself. And first of all, before you go and do jury, handing out information brochures to people, you need to look at the area of where you are. going to be distributing this information. All right. Obviously, the first place that you're going to be distributing this information is outside a courthouse because that's where it matters. The next place that you need to go and find is a good public area, right? And make sure it is public. And so this could be a park. This could be outside on the sidewalk of a plaza, or outside a library or some government buildings where there's a lot of traffic. And you need a lot of traffic. That's why we were successful at doing this in Florida. Now, I was harassed on numerous occasions because, people, you know, they call the police and say, this person's soliciting. I understand it's illegal to solicit. And obviously the cops show up and you've got to know, what the ordinances are in that particular area that you are distributing information.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to solicit means that you're handing something to somebody in order for something exchange, right? And you have to explain that when the cops show up that you're not soliciting, you're just educating people. This is freedom of speech, right? And that's all you're doing. Now, I'm not saying don't stand your ground, but there's a way to to talk to these cops, and don't be belligerent with them. Because that just basically just gets their back up, and they just want to become argumentative with you, and that's what they're looking for. They're looking for you to become argumentative. Actually, I had a janitor in a building when I was stood across the court from the courthouse in Fort Lauderdale, the federal building. He actually reported me, and 4 police cars showed up, and 4 cops harassed me, and they
Wow.
even they were asking me, well, how are you handing this information out? I hope you're not standing in front of people. Show us what you're doing. And I'm like, I'm not going to demonstrate to you. What is this, like, punked? Is Ashton Kutcher going to jump out from the bushes with a video camera here or something? So I started trying to make a bit of fun about it. And I said, look, I stand to the side and I just hold my hand out. And if people want to take the material, they take it. I'm not forcing this on anybody. I'm just asking them, do they know their rights when they sit on a jury? Here's some information. If you want it, it's great material, great material to read. If they don't want it, that's fine. And the cops, left me alone. Also, if you do go to a federal building, it's always a good idea, dress a little bit smart, go inside, and you need to talk to the person that's in charge for the security out there. Make them aware that you're going to be out there to your rights, and see what they say. Um,
James, you're breaking up.
the law, they'll make up some excuse or something, and just explain to them, no, you have a right under the First Amendment. This is freedom of speech. You can do this. You know your rights, and you're going to do this. Now,
Hey, hold on a second. Can you hold on a second? Can you hear me?
yeah,
You started to break up at the point where you talked about you go into the building to talk to the security people.
yeah, you're going to
Can you
go in
start
there.
over from that part? So
Yeah,
then I can edit this out.
okay.
Thanks.
If you're going to stand outside a federal court building, the best thing to do is to go in and and speak to somebody who's in charge. Don't just speak to somebody who's on the desk. You want to know who's in charge of the federal marshals inside, right? Now, George, this is not an easy thing to do, right? This is, it's pretty. When I first went down to Fort Lauderdale to do this, I was a little bit scared that I was going in there, I was entering the lion's den. It's always a good idea that before you start this activity, that you can get somebody on your side with you to come in, so you've got a witness, and you just ask them to don't say anything. I just want you to listen to what I'm saying, and you take them into the building with you, and you do the talking, and they're just a witness. They're not, they're not going to interact. They're not going to say anything, but you're just going to get them to hear what's been said. Go in and speak to the. There's a terminology for the person
Like a
in
court
there.
security officer?
No, it's in the federal building. It's an ISJ or something like that. I forget what it's called. But you want to talk to somebody who makes decisions on who's in charge of the federal marshals. So you might want to ask one of the federal marshals outside, "Hey, who's your supervisor? Who's in charge of you?" And get a name,
Mm-hmm.
right? And go in, and ask for that person and say, "Hey, I understand that you're in charge of the security around this building. Introduce yourself. Get a business card. Give them the business card. I had a business card with my name on, and it said Fully Informed Jury Association, and it had an address and a telephone number and an email address, and I, gave it to the person. I introduced myself. Of course, a lot of them, when they find out that this is what you're doing, it's meaningless to them. But you're trying to have a conversation with these people,
Right.
and so basically tell them that you want to pass out information, about people's rights when they serve on a jury. And of course, they're going to say, "Well, you can't." They're going to make up all kinds of stuff about it's against the law, or we have certain rules, or this, that, the other. They say, "Well, don't I have a First Amendment right to do this? Don't I have a right to be able to pass this information out?" And then, if they disagree with it, well, all you can do is you can go and try, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, as you know, George, you were arrested for just filming, right? And
Yes.
it was because Julian Heiklin became belligerent, right? They gave him a choice to leave, right? And I had this problem with Julian down in Miami. I spent a week with Julian, taking him to every single courthouse where my groups were set up,
Mm-hmm.
and I had this same problem with him where he got very confrontational with police, pulling out his pocket constitution, saying that, here's my permit, I have a right to do this, blah blah blah, And I remember one incident that, was in my mind, because you don't just do this at courthouses. You have to find places that are public, and it was in Miami, and we were outside Miami-Dade Wolfson campus, which is not too far away from the federal building there,
Mm-hmm.
and they were having uh, this college thing. Well, the streets are all open; these are public spaces, and they were having karaoke and barbecues. What a great place to get amongst all these students, right?
Uh-huh.
Young minds that need to know about, jury rights. So we're on the sidewalk and we're passing out information, and we're just passing this information, and we're getting involved in, I even invited Carlos Miller, and Carlos Miller came down because he wanted to interview Julian, and we're passing out this information, and, I had this huge bag with me of brochures, and we were passing them out, we're striking up conversation with these kids, and all of a sudden, the cops show up. But I wasn't there. I had to go back to the car to get more brochures. And
Mm-hmm.
when I'm at the car, I just actually picked him up. My phone rang, and I picked it up, and it's Julian. He's like, "James, I'm about to get arrested. You need to get back here to get my stuff." I'm like, "Julian, what the hell are you doing?" So anyway, I rush back, and there's two cops, and they're about to arrest Julian. And I said, "Can you just hold off a minute here? I'm sure we can sort this out. Who's in charge of this? Who's authorized for you to arrest him?" And basically they said that the principal of the college. I said, "Okay, what's the principal's name?" And I need to talk to the principal. So they gave me a name, and they gave me a telephone number. I said, "Please don't put your hands on my friend. Let me talk to the principal." So I dialed the number, and I basically struck up a conversation, not with the principal, but his understudy. And I'm saying, "Look, you have two guys here that are about to arrest my friend for a First Amendment issue, right? This is
Uh-huh.
not right. You get paid. You get paid with public money from taxes, right? This is a public school, and on campuses. This is not a private. We're on the sidewalk here. This is a First Amendment issue. Now, if you want to go down this road, and you want to have this guy arrested, I will name you in an article. I will let it be known that you are wasting taxpayers' money on having somebody arrested." Basically, I put this person on the spot,
Yeah.
and they said, "You know what, Mr. Cox, you just do what you want. You're right in a way." I don't know what's going on here, what you're up to, what you and your friend are up to, but you just go ahead and carry on what you're doing as long as you're doing it on the sidewalk. And I suggest that you get on the radio and tell these two police officers that are about to arrest my friend to stop their actions. And the radio went, and the cops got on the radio. They turned their back. They walked away. They come back and they said, "You guys can carry on doing what you're doing." So it's
That's
basically.
excellent.
Yeah, I mean, it's basic. There's a right way to do it, and there's a wrong way to do it, and you have to talk to somebody that's in charge, because this is the chain of obedience, right? These people are being obedient to somebody barking orders at them, and if you can get to the right person and say to them, "Listen, what you're doing here is wrong. This is a public school. This is a public place. It's paid for by taxpayers' money. You know." I had a problem where I couldn't stand outside the courthouse in Fort Lauderdale. They told me that if I was to stand outside because there's just a thin sidewalk that goes all the way around the Fort Lauderdale Federal Courthouse.
Mm-hmm.
They told me if I was to stand on there that I would be, arrested. Of course, they give you a chance to leave. Like I said, with your incident when you got arrested, they gave Julian a chance to leave, but Julian was belligerent, and it basically provoked them. And you were just minding your own business. You were just taking video, and
Well, I wouldn't say necessarily that Julian provoked them. They
They
came
didn't.
out with a certain attitude as well.
It could have
But
left though, George. They
it
gave him the
was,
chance to leave.
yeah, that's not really Julian's style. But
Right.
yeah, I think it's true. They do give people a chance to leave, and so
Right.
and for anybody who's considering doing jury nullification activism, who's wants to get started in that, you always have that out. They're
You
going to
leave.
come out and they're going to say, "Hey, what you doing?" Even in the worst case, "Hey, what you doing? We're going to have to kick your butt here or what?" And you go, "Oh no, sorry, I'm moving along."
You know why you leave? Because when you get arrested, you are losing. You lose at that point. There's no winners. When the winner is the person that moves on and goes and does it somewhere else. Because the minute you get arrested, right? This is stuff that you cannot get back in your lifetime. It's stuff that you lose. You're losing your freedom. You're losing your time away from work, your loved ones, making money, right? Emotionally, you are losing, right?
Mm-hmm.
You are not carrying on doing any activism, educating more people. You have lost. There's no point, right?
It's definitely a very high price. Arrest is not cheap in,
Right,
in
and it
many
doesn't
different
prove
ways.
and it doesn't prove anything. In fact, I would say that Julian being arrested and anybody being arrested for not leaving, right, did nothing but hurt the cause, right? And I'll tell you why. I was pamphleting, right, outside Tampa courthouse. The county courthouses are more busy than federal buildings, right?
Mhm.
So it's a good platform. I was pamphleting, and I got the very next day I went over to Orlando, and I'm going to tell you a story here. What happened? I was at Orlando, and we were pamphleting, and my phone rings, and there's somebody, a female on the other line, and she says, "Is this James Cox?" And I'm like, "Yes." She says, "Okay, my name is," and I'm not going to bring this person's name into it. I'm at Tampa Courthouse, and I'm on my. It's dinner time. It's lunchtime, sorry. And I saw the shiny thing on the floor, and I picked it up, and it's one of your pamphlets. And I noticed it's stamped. It's got contact information. That's why I'm calling you. And I find this very, very interesting. And I think that this is something that I want to get involved in. Can you explain a little bit more about it? So, okay, well, normally what we do is we strike up conversations with people. We let them know about jury nullification. We pass out brochures and this, that, and the other. She said, "When are you next in Tampa doing this?" And I said, "Next week." Okay. She says, "Well, I work Monday and Tuesday. I'm off Wednesday, and I'm off Friday." She worked in a nursing home.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like to come and do this with you. I said, "Okay, then Wednesday, do you want me to contact you back on this number?" Because, anybody that shows interest like this and makes a phone call, you need to get them involved as soon as possible. Don't let
Right.
them lose interest, right? So I said, I'll meet you at the courthouse on Wednesday at 10 o'clock. Is that good? And she says, yeah, fine, okay, I'll meet you. There's a statue outside, Lady Justice. She says, I'll meet you there. So okay. So I go. This is the following week, Wednesday. I go, and it's a no-show. So I pick up the phone and I call her, and I say, okay, because it's like I gave her like 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and I called her. I thought she'd been late. Maybe she had to catch a bus. I don't know. So I call her, and she tells me, I'm not coming. I'm like, okay, is there a reason why? Yeah, I don't want to get arrested. I'm like, well, why are you going to get arrested? Well, I think it's a great cause, and I think it's very noble of you and what you're doing. You're putting your life on the line like this, but, I don't want to get arrested. And after we had our conversation last week, over the weekend, I did some research, and I pulled up all these videos on YouTube of this old guy, Julian Heiklin, getting arrested. And I think she found another video of somebody else getting arrested. And I can't afford to do that. And I tried to explain to her that he was doing it wrong. Now, talking to other people in meetings, at Libertarian Party meetings and Tea Party meetings that I attended, this was also brought up, right? They said, I'd like to do this, but, I'm not going to stand outside a courthouse handing this information out. You get arrested. It's just a total nix. Now you have to try and defend that what you're doing, you don't get arrested. Because now people are hearing something negative about it. Nobody wants to get arrested, right? They've got families,
That's why I like so much what you have done there in Florida, and that's why I consider you probably the foremost expert on jury nullification activism in our community, because you did distribute so much literature, and you did face down, agents of the government on many occasions, and you managed to avoid getting arrested. So I think that all of us, I think this issue is so important, and so I think we all have a lot to learn from you, James. I think we've covered a lot here, and I think we definitely need to have another conversation on this sometime soon.
Yeah. I would just say this, right? If you're going to go and do this, be prepared. It takes planning, right? You need to get as many people involved because you need cameras, right? If you say to somebody, listen, I know that you think that you may get arrested, but do you have a camera? Can you stand across the street and just be a watcher for me? If you do get approached, right, leave and go to a public space, right? They're not just gonna come and arrest you just for handing out a piece of paper, right? Just leave. You don't even have to get an argument with it. If they say, listen, you can't be here, you've got to leave. Now, if you've done the research into the ordinances, the statutes, whatever, you can get into a discussion with these people, try to explain First Amendment. But leave. Just go. Go find a park somewhere. Like I say, I planned all this. Now, the other thing as well is if you're going to time it as well. If you're going to obviously you need to eat throughout the day. I did this for 8 hours a day. So what I did was I took my lunch early, right? I took my lunch between 10:30 and 11 o'clock. Why? Because people get out of work at 12, right? So I wanted to be ready. I wanted to be ready for people that were in these public places that go and get a sandwich and sit in the park on a nice sunny day, eating it and passing the information out. There's videos on YouTube. You can actually go to florida.fija.org, right? And you can find the blog there of everything that I've done. But I must reiterate again that there's no winner in getting arrested. It doesn't make you a hero. It doesn't prove anything other than that the state is a vicious, nasty machine that wants to incarcerate people for victimless crimes, right?
Right.
Walk away, right? Strike up conversations with somebody somewhere else, pass out information. There's a lot of places, a lot of platforms to do this other than outside courthouses. I, at one point, was being harassed that many times. I was being harassed by the federal marshals. I was being harassed by the local police, that I left that area in Fort Lauderdale and I went to a different city to pass this information out. So yeah, they're going to come up and they're going to talk to you. They're going to say you can't do this. Leave. Then go back. There's there's a saying in England that says, "See the fool who runs away, he lives to fight another day." And like I say, you're no good inside a cage. You can educate more people on the outside by passing out information and striking up a
Conversation.
conversation with them than you can inside, right? And so you don't have to get arrested doing this. In fact, I strongly say don't get arrested. Walk away, find somewhere else to do this, and pass it out. Also, what's very important is to go to meetings and ask if you can talk at those meetings. I spoke at Libertarian Party meetings. I mean, they're on the internet. You can find when they have these meetings at Go to meetup.com. Find out places. You know, there's Constitution. There's Constitution. Party meetups, there's Libertarian Party meetups, there's Democrat Party meetups, there's Republican Party meetups, there's all kinds of different meetups. There's the marijuana, what's that one called?
Reform group? Normal?
There's normal, you know, also big thing here is where I was starting to attend when I was winding up my campaign in Florida. I was going and talking on college campuses to students because it's the young minds. I talked at USF, I talked at Florida State University, University of Florida. I spoke at numerous campuses, and you can always apply as well to to go and speak on the campus in the free speech zone. Go and get a permit for that. But you've got to get people with you. You know, one person.
You can't do it by yourself. It's not a good idea, right?
It was tough when I first started doing this. Right, I was like, how? There's a lot of planning. I wish that we could raise money. Seriously do to get some to
get a more permanent thing going, right?
To get people doing this on a full-time basis. I mean,
So James, how can people follow up with you? So if there are people who are watching this and like, hey, this James Cox guy, he's pretty interesting, and I can vouch for that. I've known James, I think, since 2008, and actually the first time he introduced me to online video, James, with your, I think it was Truth, Freedom, and Prosperity show that you invited me to be on.
Peace, Freedom, Prosperity.com.
I think that was in 2007 or 2008. So
yeah, we had
so
the Freedom
folks who
Hour.
want to stay in touch with you, what's the best place to do that?
You can contact me through Facebook. You can email me at James Cox. That's JamesCox, the numeral 6, the numeral 8 at gmail.com. JamesCox68 at gmail.com. Catch me on Facebook. I'm just trying to.
What about you? You have a YouTube channel, right?
I have a YouTube channel, James Cox. It's also, if you search, everyone's a critic, but the E is missing after the V in every. So it's everyone's a critic.
I'll get the links from you, and I'll put them in the description of this video.
Yeah. But activism, be safe doing it. It can be fun going out there and, doing this. I just see so many people doing activism and they do it wrong. I've just watched a video not long back of these people trying to impeach Obama on an overpass, and they all get it. The people that are doing it, they get arrested. What's the point? Leave. Go to a different place and do it.
It's like a guerrilla tactic kind of a thing, right?
Yeah, we need to do more.
When it's a guerrilla war, you don't go out there and stand in formation like the British did in the Revolutionary War. Right, because you just get a cannonball through your head.
Right. I mean,
you got to keep moving. You got to always
gotta keep moving. Move on to a different destination.
Right.
Like I say, there's a lot of planning goes into activism where you don't, like I did. I would go and stand in a park, go and stand outside a campus,
right.
Go and stand in a government building. There's more than one way to skin a rabbit, and it all goes into planning. There's a lot of things that can be done. You brought up guerrilla. Things can be done in the middle of the night. if if you're protesting against something where people don't get to know about it, you go and do it. You take photographs of it. You leave it. You anonymously email the photographs to the press, and then next day the general public get to see it because you've done something. Of course, not doing damage to property. I'm not talking about damaging
Right.
property and stuff like that. But I'm talking about, like, if you're anti-war, let's say, for argument's sake, is an idea. You could find a park. You could string a washing line around it, and then you go and get from Goodwill or something a lot of babies' clothes, and you throw red paint on them, and you peg them out and say, your money, your tax dollars is killing babies, in foreign countries. You put a sign up. You go and do this in the middle of the night, take photographs of it. I'm just giving you ideas of how guerrilla theater can.
Tactics. Right.
Yeah, you could get a load of people dressed in jumpsuits, right? You could go with black hoods on, go and stand outside a courthouse, put shackles on them, videotape it. Of course, always put your activism online.
Mm-hmm.
And,
All right, good stuff, James. Yeah, thanks. We have to talk about again soon because there are so many topics to cover, and this topic is so important. But James Cox, and have a great day, James.
Thank you, George.